Recording in progress.
Thank you. All right, I call the meeting to order of January 17th, 2022 at 7:02 p.m. I will entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. I will entertain a motion for the approval of the closed board meeting minutes of December 8th.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the approval of the closed board meeting minutes of December 8th, 2021 signify with an aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. All right, I will entertain a motion for the approval of the board meeting minutes of December 20th, 2021.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Yes, sir.
Any discussion on the minutes of the December 20th, 2021 meeting minutes?
Yes,
Okay,
I have two items. Sorry I didn't catch this earlier, but there are two items. First, under new business, page 3, under approval of ACC denial of board of building permit for pavilion, the vote taken was by a secret ballot. And in the bottom of the paragraph, somehow there are names associated with how they voted.
can you,
The way that I read the sunshine laws, I was supposed to put that should be public knowledge. So I put it in the minutes.
Just seems odd. It's a secret ballot.
There was not a roll call vote called for.
I'll be happy to change it if the board would
Well,
like to change.
I have some discussion points on that. I've read the sunshine law, I've read Robert's Rules of Order. The only time that a secret ballot is supposed to happen is when community members are voting for elected board positions, along with when the board is selecting office chairs. Other than that, there's no reason to have a secret ballot, and technically, that vote should be nullified.
But technically it was a secret ballot, so nobody could
Why are
possibly
you
know
raising
who
your
voted.
voice? Why are you raising your voice?
okay, hang on a
Nobody
minute.
could
Hang on,
possibly know who voted if it's a secret ballot.
hang on a minute.
What I'm saying is that the secret ballot should have never happened in the first place.
I'll table the names of who voted how until we get clarification of it. And we can ask Ted that. So, pending the, you can report it as is without any names mentioned until we further find out about that. And what was the second thing, Chris?
Well, first, I'm sorry, but as a matter of discussion, the whether it's allowed or not, the consensus was it would be a secret ballot, and we all agreed upon it, and there was no objection.
I did object.
Therefore, it should carry.
I objected.
Second, I'm sorry, you're out of order. Second, my second item, under 5 rule changes proposed, there are 6 items because the motion to limit family household 1 member is placed underneath the 5 rules change proposed instead of a new business item.
It should be new business. It is new business.
Yeah.
It is a new business.
Look at the hierarchy, please. It is under new business. The hierarchy is it falls under 5 rules changes proposed. It is not a rules change.
So just move your bullet item out to the level of the new business. Instead of being under the 5 rules changes, it was a separate motion to be made for a motion.
Where is it at?
At the very bottom, it's
Page
under the new business, page 2. There were 5 rules changes proposed. Those 5 are listed. There's a 6th one that you made a motion for
Okay.
that needs to be moved out that isn't under the rules motions.
Move it to the left. Not over down, but just to the left.
Okay, so until we hear further about the secret vote, we will publish the minutes without the names and with this motion moved out to the,
Just remember, it's a secret ballot. You couldn't have possibly known who the names are.
I believe it was correct. I'll talk to Scott later, because I read it too.
all right, any other discussion about the minutes? All in favor signify with an aye. All opposed? Motion passes. All right, treasurer's report.
Okay, this is as of 12/31/2021. Treasurer's report on an accrual basis shows total assets of $1,117,199.84, which includes all buildings, roads, equipment, and all other POA assets, including any cash in the bank and so forth. That's it. What do you think?
Well, is this what you just read?
What?
I thought you ended with 84 cents.
I did.
Okay, that's
I got-
not what we have here.
Yeah, I got 1,018,000.
What the heck happened there?
This only shows total fixed assets.
What day
This
you
isn't
got there?
total
I have
assets.
12/31.
Yeah,
This doesn't, this is total.
total fixed assets.
Total
I
fixed
show
is
1,389,993. Is that what you showed, Ted?
Yeah.
Same date, I don't get it. What does everybody else have?
Well, you know,
What do you show
On
for
your total
fixed
assets,
assets?
second page, total assets?
same thing as Dave. Now,
Well, hang on before we go.
As of December 31st.
These are all different.
Now, I don't get that, you can see right here, we've got the same date.
Yeah, that's what we could down the balance
what,
sheet.
what time?
Okay, all right, here's the problem.
Time.
We're on
Cash
accrual.
basis, accrual basis.
We got an accrual basis.
I'm showing it on the cash basis, I apologize.
Okay, so which is.
Your number is right. If
Okay,
you-
so you read this report then, and
Okay,
then we'll
whatever.
approve that.
Whatever. Total assets, $1,389,993.46. That's the amount. If your report says accrual basis, that's correct. That's what we're going by now. Okay? Does everybody have that accrual?
Okay.
Sorry about that.
All right. All right.
As you can see, my printer is off, it doesn't print that word, so I will fix that next time. Sorry.
Presentation of bills.
Okay, this is your check report, look at that. Shows all the checks we wrote for the month, $39,366.84. Can we agree on that? Okay.
Yes.
That should be the same, whether it's a cash basis or accrual basis. That's how much money we spent this much to keep the door open. There isn't anything remarkable on this, just the usual expenses of payroll, utilities, insurance, that sort of thing. Does anybody have any questions on
I
that?
only have one, Barb, and I know I've probably asked this before, and I don't know what you
Okay.
said.
Okay.
Maybe we need to get back to it. This QuickBooks line item,
Mhm.
1221, 2505. Is that a monthly cost or
Good. Check it.
QuickBooks 2505?
Yeah.
That's a monthly cost?
No. No, it's not.
Quarterly or yearly or,
I'm gonna have to check. I'm
Okay.
thinking it's quarterly.
all right, if you could, please.
I will check for sure.
All right, I don't have anything else. You wanna-
Although we had her out here for some additional.
Right, right,
So that may be part of that.
okay.
I'll let you know.
Motion,
Well, I do have a one
Okay.
discussion.
we can discuss that in the motion unless you see a correction.
No, correct.
Okay.
Okay.
You wanna make a motion to approve those?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve.
I probably should.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Treasurer's
I'll second.
Any discussion on the treasurer's report or presentation of bills? Adam, you had a question?
Yeah, I know we talked about it before, but the Bay's high-speed wireless, and that's for them to help service our internet here. But that's not internet costs as well, right? I mean, we have AT&T, which is the 7, or that's security.
that is our internet, some of that's included in that.
Okay.
Wendy is here. Wendy, can you,
The
do you
base
mind
is
if we
our
ask her?
internet.
No, go ahead.
She can give some more details about Bay's bill and what it includes.
I don't know what it includes exactly, but I know that it's our internet that runs.
Yeah,
Well,
well, it's the internet service on.
But don't we have a couple of our cameras on base?
No, I think that's the AT&T stuff.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Uh-huh.
Can you do me a favor, Wendy, not tonight, just when you get a minute, take a copy of the Bay's bill
Yeah.
so we can see the itemized section of it and forward it to the board, please?
I think that
Or if
has,
you wanna forward it to Deb or Barb, and you can distribute it.
this is about $40 a month more than we normally pay, and I don't know if that's because that went up or if there's something additional on here. We just need to look at that and see. That's it.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the approval of the treasurer's report and presentation of bills signify with an aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Correspondence report.
We received a thank you letter from a resident property owner thanking the POA board, volunteers, maintenance, and staff for their efforts. We received a number of Christmas cards that were posted for viewing on our door. And we had a request for information from a POA board member about the ACC appeal that we looked at last month. We also received 3 censure payments from property owners in December.
There you go. I would like to do a verbal correspondence to you. And Brandon, is it, I believe, is asked for verbal arguments sometime in February. That is all I know about the legal side of things. Administration, I guess we can announce that we have hired a
Hired somebody.
part-time office staff to learn the process and help fill in the cracks where people are sick, on vacation, maybe extended hours on the weekends or evenings or things like that. It's not gonna be something that happens overnight, but we are looking for some additional staff support, and we have hired somebody as of today. Or we made an offer, has she accepted?
Yes,
Okay,
she'll be here tomorrow.
oh, she's starting tomorrow, so she accepted. Okay, that's all I have there. Architectural control.
We're still having the ACC meetings via email. We're having one ACC meeting a month. The next ACC meeting is going to be scheduled for February 1st. As of January, there are 13 homes currently under construction or have been submitted for approval, and I think we have like 2 or 3 more sitting that haven't been approved yet. So, and we have at least 27 miscellaneous projects. I think I signed off on 1 or 2 of them just last week. We will be also asking the board for approval of a variance request for a fence. The guidelines are 48 inches. The property has submitted plans for a permitted fence, but it's 51 inches instead of 48 inches. Apparently the company he's getting the fence for cannot get the 48-inch fence. So it's a supply chain issue. That's why he requested the variance, and the board reviewed the fence. And I do have pictures of the fence we can talk about under new business when we go for the variance or not.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is this the second time we've run into this with someone trying to build a fence and they couldn't get 48 inches, they could only get 51 inches because of a supply chain?
Not on the fence, but there's been other issues too, and I think they were like on retaining walls or something like that.
Okay,
Not
because
that
of
we're aware of.
supply issues.
But there's been we've had a lot of requests for extensions because of supply chain stuff.
All right, thanks, Dave. One thing I would mention, unless it's gonna come under something else here, well, I'll let Deb talk first, see if something comes out of her report. So, communications and events.
Okay. Communications, we had 524 emailed Raintree roundups at the end of December, and that is currently posted on the website under both news and under newsletters. And we sent various postings about holiday office hours and weather road concerns. And January is scheduled to be a paper newsletter again. So that's all I have for communications. For events, I wanted to first ask, last year we went to some amount of effort to sponsor a golf cart parade for Volunteer Appreciation Day, and we had maybe a dozen participants in that, including me. So this year, the National Volunteer Appreciation Day is April 15th. Just circling back, in historical years before COVID, we did our appreciation for volunteers as a picnic at the pavilion in September. And so now, since Volunteer Appreciation Day is April 15th, and since I'm now working as a part-time tax preparer, what could go wrong with that? But I was wondering if the board has a preference. If we go ahead and try to do this golf cart parade, which for the people who participate, be they in the golf carts or coming out to cheer, is a fun thing to do, and I think it very little cost to that. But if maybe in September we're at a point where we feel comfortable having a picnic again, we could still keep that open as a possibility. But go ahead with the golf cart parade in April, are we comfortable with that?
Sounds good to me.
My only suggestion would be maybe towards the end of April, because a lot of people are still out of town from the winter. And it might be a little warmer, and we could call it the summer kickoff or something.
Besides Volunteer Appreciation Parade?
Well, what are we volunteering in January through February? Is this from last September?
It's an annual thing.
Okay.
It's just, that day is the official National Volunteer
Oh, it
Appreciation.
is?
April 15th is?
Yes, if you
In
Google
addition to
it.
being tax day.
Right.
Yeah, there's
Tax day
nothing
is
happy about
18th.
that day for me.
So,
Oh, I'm fine that that's the day it is, I didn't realize that. I just was concerned that, a lot of people stay through April and.
Well, I don't have any problem with moving it a little bit either, so I'll talk to the volunteers on the committee.
What day is the 15th?
It's a Saturday.
Okay, then just leave it, unless they decide they wanna change it, but if it's on a Saturday, I'm okay with that.
All right, and then we can talk later in the year about whether we want to do anything for September. Okay, thank you. Then another thing I just wanted to mention, since the HOA, the Homeowners Association, generously included all homeowners for their light display contest, and they could not only compete with lights, but they could also vote. And so the winners that were determined by the HOA board were Josh and Lisa Rue on Lincoln, and Andrew and Christian Belanger on Raintree Drive, and then third place went to Tonadillo on Blue Ridge Trail. And so we want to thank the HOA for allowing the whole community to participate, and then also mention that the Homeowners Association, which is purely a social group, memberships are only $35 a year per household. And the president of the HOA happens to be in our audience. Wave at Betsy.
Hi, Betsy.
And Betsy has membership forms with her that she can hand out for anybody who would like to take advantage of all the HOA has to offer. So see her after the meeting for that, or not a big crowd tonight, you might poke her, she might give you. So that's the events.
All right. If you could add one thing to the administration report, it kind of crosses over you a little bit. We had a training session with Wendy and Nikki today on the website about how to post things, and just FYI, she has added a section in there for meeting minutes of ACC and rules, and also there will be calendar updates to when the meetings are going to be held. So Wendy has been trained on that, and that'll be an ongoing process as well. But the calendar should be more prevalent to people, and the minutes will be on the website. Okay, thanks. The finance, Barb?
I don't have a lot there, except as of the end of the year, we have outstanding assessments for 2021 in the amount of $56,985.03. We have outstanding special assessments for 2020 in the amount of $11,525.89. That amount represents about 230 property owners who have not paid their special assessments. All of this has already gone to collections because of the late date. I just want to give you an update on how much is out there. And that is all I have on that.
All right, thank you very much. Golf cart. Am I reading that, or Dave, are you reading that, or?
Let me see, right now the POA is taking proof of insurance, payment and signature on golf cart agreement. Tammy will be doing inspections, applying the stickers and taking the photos. The two-step process can be completed on the same or separate days. Best to call the office and confirm Tammy is at the office. There will be sporadic days Tammy will not be at the office due to family matters, personal appointments. Tammy will always do her best to work around the schedules and be there, and she was here a lot last year, so just email her or make an appointment would be the best way to go about that. A reminder to anyone who fishes our lakes, both in boats and from the shoreline, we have established daily possession, keeping the fish guidelines that specify the size and quantity by the species. These specifications are established with the assistance of the Department of Natural Resources. These specifications apply to everyone, even those fishing from their own boathouse. We've been concerned about the lake stock. We will be meeting with DNR to determine our spring fishery order and discuss this concern with DNR.
Thank you.
Question.
Yes?
There was a question on Facebook about somebody asked me how to get the stickers off. And for last year, I thought Tammy took my sticker off
She
last
took
year.
them off and they come up, she took the old one off, put the new one on.
Yeah, so it's not something anybody needs to be
Actually,
worried
no,
about.
she'll be doing that, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Just a little update that Tammy and her husband are very, very sick right now. They both have COVID, plus her husband, a fireman, was injured in a fire last week in
Yeah.
addition to being sick with COVID. So, good wishes their way.
If you do need a golf cart inspected, I am her backup, so you can reach out to me, but it will be evenings or weekends that I make those appointments. Maintenance.
I'll read that if I can find it.
Keep going.
Keep going.
There we go. Well, we got
Okay.
organized on here.
Yeah. Our maintenance department has been busy working snow events. If anybody lives on their routes, they know that they can hear them during the night. They were on it this week, and we all appreciate very much the fact that they stayed on top of this. It turned out not to be a big event, but it very well could have, and they were out there. We've seen an increase in the number of damaged street signs. We made a ditch to hopefully control the amount of water standing on Collin Drive after a rain.
Not to interrupt you, but I have noticed that there seems like there's a water leak. Is that just residual water from
Where?
right here, right before you get to the,
Yeah, I've seen that a lot for years.
is that what that is addressing?
No, I don't think so. I don't know if that's got something to do with the sprinkler system, because there's lines that run through
Yeah,
there.
I was concerned that we might have a leak, because it was a couple days after it rained and there was still a significant amount of water.
I'll ask about that again. All vehicles and snow removal equipment are getting maintenance and made ready for the next event. They have worked to remove debris and leaf blocks from the ditches with the use of their new leaf vacuum, trimmed off limbs and volunteer growth off of roadways and out of ditches, filled potholes. The maintenance crew asks that residents please use off-street parking whenever possible when snow is imminent. This is very important for safety and the ability to clean the roads. They can't go through these streets with plows when people are parked on the roads. So it's basically a problem most of the year, but it's worse in the wintertime. If anyone has any areas that need attention, please fill out a work order and it will be assessed to see what can be done.
Thank you, Barb. Thanks to Tom and his crew. They do a heck of a job. Denny Roads.
Okay, the roads committee meetings will resume in February, and the date is to be determined. We have already begun a repair replacement list for 2022. If anybody wishes to join the committee, please leave your name and phone number at the office and we will get back with you. The EPA wasn't able to complete 6 of the properties needing remediation this last year. The owners were not responsive to emails, phone calls, or door knocking. I'm trying to find out what the EPA will do, if anything, regarding those properties. If any PO property owner wants their lot to be tested, there are forms in the lobby which can be completed, and that needs to be sent to the EPA Region 7, Lenexa, Kansas. The flashing light to be installed at B and Collin Drive is still being worked on by MoDOT, and that is the report for this month.
And I will just add this, as I do every time you read your report, if you don't get your your soil tested, or if you don't want to do it, and you go to sell your house, that has to be disclosed, and it can be on you to remediate. It will not be done free by the EPA, if I understand correctly.
That's correct. And it's very, very expensive.
Right.
Is there a list of lots that have already been tested?
I think, aren't they on there, Dave?
No, the lots that have been tested, we've got a list in Wendy's office.
Okay.
If you ever need to see it, we got them all in there.
Cool.
Okay.
Rules report.
The rules manual has been pulled off the Raintree POA website temporarily because we're trying to get everything updated from last year. We're in the process of updating the changes made last year. The rules manual will be posted as soon as we verify the updates are complete and match the record the board voted on. Vehicle, trailer, RV, and other storage on empty lots is prohibited and constitute a bulk of complaints from property owners. No vehicles, RVs, or trailers should ever be parked on the grass. The office gets calls and written complaints regarding this issue. Please refer to section 2J of the Raintree POA covenants. Street parking as a safety hazard for our fire department and the emergency vehicles. Just another reminder that tailgating through our gates is dangerous, often results in gate damage, and comes with a $100 censure assessment. If a tailgating violation resulted in gate damage, there is an additional censure of $250, plus the cost of damage, repair, and administration costs. The rules meeting previously scheduled for tomorrow, January 18, 2022 at 6 p.m. has been postponed. We have a lot of people sick and the minutes aren't ready and just other complications. But we will likely schedule for February 15th at 6 p.m. and properly adjourn at 8 o'clock. The previous request to keep the beach parking area open until 8:30 and will be discussed again at the February meeting, but we will continue to keep that open until 8:30 until we meet again in February.
All right. Hey, Dave, I got one question. On the rules meetings, how does the invitation go out? Because there was a couple people last month that said they didn't get the email, or I don't know how it goes out, or.
Yeah, well, the people that were asking that question were at the previous meeting when the date was set. So it goes out to the rules committee, so it goes out to, and then we announce it on Blinky. And since the rules meeting is almost always the day after the board meeting, I announce it at the board meeting that it will be tomorrow. In this case, it will not be. But again, I believe February 15th is a Tuesday after the board meeting on the 14th.
Is there anything we can set up in MailChimp?
Meeting can't be the 14th.
I think it is.
1/8/15, it's impossible.
When's the board meeting?
That's the.
So what he's asking.
It's the third Monday.
Right.
14th. It would be the 5th. No, wait, it'd be the 21st. So the third Tuesday that month, actually, the rules meeting will be prior, because it'll be the third Tuesday.
Okay. I'm wondering if we can set something up for like any of these committees that people want to know about other than Blinky, because the one guy that called me don't live here, and he says he don't see Blinky, and he wasn't at the board meeting. I'm wondering if we can have some generic, I mean, do we post it on the, I know it's gonna go in the calendar going forward, but.
I don't usually send out committee meetings by email, or I don't have any objection to it, but I just need the master list or something to prompt me to do it, because I'm not gonna voluntarily start posting other people's meetings.
I can, once we get an agenda, we can send that out if you want.
Yeah, I would just say like Denny, you're asking if anybody wants to join the roads, we create an email for like roads, ACC rules, and then when you guys do something, we just blast email them people and say, hey, the meeting's, just because not everybody sees the Blinky.
I've been emailing our committee members.
Okay.
Well, what we're saying now, isn't it, is that other people are interested in joining, so it needs to go not just to our committee members, but out through.
Joining
the
and people that want to just sit out here and watch and listen.
So it really needs to come through me.
Right.
Why can't we put it on the website?
We could. I don't know if we are, or have we been?
Well, if it's on the calendar, it's on the website.
Right,
But
We
if I,
talked about that today. the calendar on the website.
right.
But
So
every time
going
I-
forward, that'll be helpful.
every time I send an email out, it then goes under news on the website, so.
Well, that's a good place for it to see the most recent stuff. All right, thanks, Dave. Security, Chris.
Have a short list. The guest entry system at the back gate was reset one time in the last month. And the front gate and the back gate have been put back up at least 1 month in the last month. And we had a report last week of an issue getting in the back gate, and we verified and checked it out, and we're not able to duplicate the area they problem that they were
know you mentioned a couple months ago, or at least it seems like a couple months ago, that there were some issues at the back gate and Dan was working with the vendor to see if there was, I don't know if it was hardware that needed to be replaced. Did that ever get resolved?
It was firmware.
Firmware.
It get new firmware. And the other thing we had going on with the back gate was the, sensor loop on the exit. And we had that, we fixed it once, and then they also repaved the back gate area, and so they had to cut and put in the sensor wire again, so that got replaced twice.
All right. Thank you. All right, that's all the committee reports. We'll now get into unfinished and new business. So under unfinished business, we have a discussion from Adam's motion regarding spouses on the same committee. So I will make a brief statement about that, some research I did on my own, and you guys can talk about it and we can discuss it and vote on it. As far as Robert's Rules of Orders go, there is not a standing mandatory no homes or households or husband and wives or kids or daughters or
Cohabitants.
sons, cohabitants, anybody be restricted from a committee. It does recommend or suggest that it's not a good idea to have spouses or otherwise voting on anything pertaining to that committee. Not that it is a mandatory thing or should be done. And I'm gonna give you my 2 cents what I think about it. I don't think I have a problem with any cohabitants being on a committee. I just think when it comes down to a vote, we probably should only allow one vote like we do when we vote for the ballot. That's just my 2 cents. You guys can all put your 2 cents in or how you feel.
Has the motion been made yet, or has it been seconded and everything?
Oh, yeah, it was
Last
the motion was last month. This was under new business, unfinished business. So this is just continuing the discussion from last month.
Okay, so we're still in.
So Adam or Dave, did you want to say something?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so broadly speaking, it is permissible for spouses to simultaneously serve on an HOA or POA committee, if they are eligible. Many states allow it or remain silent on the matter. This is akin to saying that, in fact, it's legal. Examples of these states that say it's legal is California, Colorado, and Minnesota. On the other hand, there are some states that explicitly forbid having spouses on a board or committee at the same time. A couple of those states would be Florida and Louisiana. I haven't been able to find anything in what Missouri says on it. I think they're just one of those states that remain silent. So, I think that, it might be a good idea to check with our attorney for guidance on that. Although there are reasons to support having spouses on a committee, which I think I would agree with you. I think it's a good idea that spouses could serve on the same committee, but having one vote would make sense. So for example, for smaller committees, having 2 people, presumably the same motivations and goals, would mean that certain decisions would always get the majority of vote. Allowing spouses on smaller boards or committees is equivalent to letting them essentially control the actions of the association. In my opinion, this would sow distrust between the community and committee members. And when a single unit or household automatically gets 2 votes, where other community members only get 1, it can produce an unfavorable atmosphere. And then they'll start questioning the committee's decisions. They'll wonder whether or not the decisions are good for the community or do they serve another purpose. Even if the spouses have good intentions, that's not always how the owners will interpret it. Simply putting them on the same committee together can create an appearance of misconduct and dishonesty. Owners will think that spouses are conspiring specifically to benefit their interests by influencing the voting scale. And while it's entirely possible for spouses to have differing opinions on issues, they are more likely to be in agreement. So, that being said, and yeah, you brought up, we do need volunteers. So I think that if they were to serve on the committee together, but just like everyone else in the community, one vote per household or inhabitants or whatever you want to say, would make sense. So in order to eliminate any of this.
Eliminate what? I mean, what would it do? What would stop being a married couple from volunteering on an ACC committee where we're approving of homes and other things? What would your motion do preventing them?
It eliminates a household from having 2 votes where other households only have 1.
And so how is it, what is that doing?
It's the perception that it's even if there's not a criminal intent or anything of that nature of both people voting the same way because they both live in a house and, we all have a wife and know how
Well, let
that
me ask you
goes.
a question. Do you know what this is? Do you know what this is? Have you seen this before?
Yeah.
You know what that is?
Well, hang on, Dave, I was in the middle of something here.
Well, no,
It gives the perception of how the subdivision reacts to it. That's exactly what Robert's Rules of Order says in there.
Can I say something?
Hang on, Chris had his hand up first.
Well, I do want to continue with what I
You
have.
can, hang on. Go ahead, Chris.
I have a point to make in that our current method of voting does allow for people under the same household to have more than one vote if they own multiple properties and the properties are deeded to individuals, like the wife is deeded on one property and the husband is deeded on the other property. They are allowed to vote at the annual vote. Any questions?
That's because of the way the covenants are written though, Chris. It's not because we don't think 2 people, like, for instance, say yourself, you have multiple properties, correct? And both you and your wife are very active on committees. I don't think anybody has a problem with the input or being involved in a committee. At least this is the way I see it. Where it does set up some perception of how things are being handled and voted on is if both you and your wife voted on a rule or a covenant or whatever in a meeting, that would send the perception to people that you are trying to allocate 2 votes from the same household, regardless of what the ballot items in the bylaws say. That's my opinion of it.
Can I talk now?
Yes, hang on. Did you want to respond to that at all, Chris?
Well, I do. I don't know if you observed my wife and I in a committee meeting, but sometimes we do cancel each other out. We don't always agree on the matter, so it doesn't mean that we're going to be doubling up votes on for or against all the time. And I get to make that assumption that it's always going to be a double vote in one way or the other is a misstep. I don't think that you can make that assumption all the time.
No, and I'm not accusing you guys or assuming that
There's this
in all
perception.
ways.
I'm saying you are accusing me. I'm just saying that you're making the assumption that if 2 people from a household are voting, that they're always going to vote the same way and that it's going to be an unfair advantage for that household to get their way. And that's not always the case.
Well, I'm not really making the assumption. I'm just telling you what Robert's Rules of Order suggest as best practices, not an assumption.
Also, well, and as I said, I laid out our current voting practice allows for it in some cases and does not restrict those votes. And has not, and currently our bylaws, our current operating bylaws do not account for participation or voting in committees. There are no restrictions.
Okay. Barbie, you had something?
Yeah. Several of these committees, the people who are spouses on these same committees put in a lot of work, both of them do. They will be on ACC, they inspect, and they do the work. So it is disingenuous to say, oh, you can't vote. even though you're putting in the time volunteering on this committee and doing just as much work, and especially, there are no restrictions against it at this point. And look at all the elections, locally, statewide, and national. This is by person, it isn't by household. This is the only place I know of that says only one person out of this house can vote, and that's in our main election here. That is never applied on committees, because committee members all contribute a lot of time and effort. If they're working on a project and they, for instance, they're the inspector on that project, and they put in a lot of time, and then decisions have to be made and voted on as far as that project, you're gonna tell them that you can't vote on this because your wife or your spouse or this other person in your house is voting on this. That is not fair. We have enough trouble getting committee members and volunteers to work on this stuff. And to say, you can do all the work, but you can't have a voice in it. That's not right. In my opinion, that is not fair, and it won't work.
Dave, you had something?
Yeah, I have two things specifically. For one, what is the perception? What perception has ever come up that somebody voting on somebody's house or fence or their retaining wall has somehow caused something to be wrong, or the perception of something to be illegal or unethical or foul play or whatever you might?
I don't know if there is.
Well, whoa. Then why are you making a rule?
Because there was a motion made, and I read Robert's Rules of Orders.
Well, let me tell you
And
something.
it's best
All
practices.
right, let's go back to here.
Okay, wait a minute. Did that answer your question?
No, not really.
Well, how else would you
Because-
like me to answer it? It's the truth.
The perception, you said there's this perception. Whose perception? Your perception? Is there a perception that somehow the ACC has done something wrong? Because I'm getting a little tired of this accusation. You even mentioned it wrong in the correspondence. ACC is getting accused of all kinds of things, and it's wrong.
It's got nothing to do with the ACC.
But it absolutely does.
No, it
because
does
I got
not.
13 houses here, okay? The perception, there could be something wrong because somebody voted on the ACC.
You are taking
Right
that in.
here, 25 projects, 13 houses. Who's gonna do this work? You know what? I see people on here, I see all kinds of volunteers, I see board members. I don't see your name. I don't see you doing anything. I mean, you don't even vote on the committees. You don't even vote in the emails. But you're gonna do the least, and now you're gonna dictate that nobody or who else can or cannot volunteer. These people are doing work. We've had people on pontoon boats looking at a seawall that somebody wants to put a concrete seawall up against railroad ties. Well, there's an issue with that. We had a meeting last Saturday. Was you here? No, you wasn't here. It's hard to get volunteers. I know you're working, you're busy. So are people in the subdivision. That's why I don't tell somebody because they're married they can't serve on a committee, because they're doing the work. And if you look at all the names on here, you'll see who's doing all the work.
Nobody said they couldn't do the work.
And they're gonna be able to vote if they can't do the work.
Well, I'm just telling you, there was a motion made, I did the research, I read Robert's Rules of Order, you don't want to accept that?
I don't.
Or is that it?
I think it's slanted and you've done it before.
No, I haven't.
Continue, absolutely have.
Enough out of you. Chris, you got something?
Well, one thing I want to point out with this motion, that this motion cannot be decided by us. This will have to be incorporated in the bylaws where committees are formed and ruled, and the changes and amendments to the bylaws will require to implement.
You cut out there.
Yeah, I didn't hear all of it, Chris, you were cutting out a little bit.
I said that any change to the way committees are to vote, that there is how we vote or restricting votes will have to be a change to the bylaws. The bylaws cover the form and governing of committees. And this will, any amendment and changes to the bylaws will require a majority vote for approval from the POA members at annual election ballot.
Okay, I will table this motion, do some research, find out if that's the case with the motion. If it is, then either you put it on a ballot or it can be voted on here. I don't know that answer, so if that's the case. So, motion to,
Under the bylaws, the forming and government of committees is under Article 4, Section 8.
Article 4, Section 8, so go through that, see what it says. If it prevents from changing the way people join committees, then you have to either put it on a ballot or drop the motion, either way, Adam.
Well,
And the
I guess that's
amendments to the bylaws in Article 14 requires that it follows Article 2, Section 2, which means a full member vote to make changes to the bylaw.
All right, so we will table this motion until you can confirm one way or the
Well,
other.
like I said, I think we should consult with our attorney on it.
Send me the question, I'll send it to him.
Okay.
All right, any other unfinished business? Nope. New business, variance request for a fence.
Yes. The fence should be at 48 inches tall. He acknowledged that he's asking for a variance specifically because the availability of the product is not available. He cannot get the fence what we would require. This is the fence that he's getting. It's 3 inches taller than our requirements. We have done higher fences before, but this would have to be a variance granted if we want to do that. On the lot is in section 14, lot 206. Does anyone want to see any of that?
We believe you.
So is this a motion to approve that?
Yes, the motion to approve the variance for the fence from,
Who's it for, by the way?
it is for lot 14, I'm sorry, section 14, lot 206.
I'll
Yes.
second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the variance request for a fence 3 inches taller than allowed on, what is it, section 14, lot 208?
206.
206, signify with an aye.
Aye.
I
Motion passes. Any other new business? I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
I'd like to revisit something.
sure.
Since we are in, I guess, new business, or in something that was mentioned earlier, about you said you were going to table the matter of the secret ballot.
Correct. No,
And were we going to be covering that?
no, that'll be sent to we're gonna have to do some research on it. I don't have that answer right now,
But what we said
On
was
what?
what we said
The
was
secret ballot.
whether or not the names would be,
But here's where I have an issue though. If it's a secret ballot, how could you possibly know what the names are? You would assume what the names are. You might deduce what the names are, but you don't know what the names are on a secret ballot.
Sure, Getty, but the
Well, then how can
question,
you release the names?
can I say something?
I will resign. I'll make it simple. You guys are driving me crazy.
come down, Deb, don't get upset.
Jump in.
If it's a secret ballot, you don't publish the names.
You don't know the names are. You don't know the
We voted to do a secret ballot, so secret is secret.
Yeah, go ahead.
I reviewed the bylaws. There is nothing in the bylaws that require or say that we can or cannot use secret ballot. It just says that voting will take place. And I did review Robert's rules on secret ballot, and it says that a secret ballot can be used when ballot vote can be ordered by a majority vote, which may be desirable whenever it is believed that members may thereby be more likely to vote their true sentiments. And so it does allow, it is not specifically secret ballot or anonymous ballot is not designated to yearly annual elections only.
And you're saying that needed to be voted on to use the secret ballot, is that what you're saying?
And we did.
I didn't
No,
know.
I'm saying, it says agreed, it does not say a
Oh,
vote.
you said voted on.
No, I'm saying that.
I said voted on.
We agreed that we would redo the minutes to take the names out.
Yeah, I think,
That's
In
done.
which there is no requirement that vote be by ballot. Ballot vote can be ordered by majority vote, which may be desirable whenever it is believed that members may thereby be more likely to vote their true sentiments.
Dave, I believe it also states.
You can cast anonymous votes or secret ballots.
okay,
It also states in Robert's rules that if one person requests a secret ballot, it can be allowed.
okay. As of right now, Deb's removing that anyway, so,
Okay, well, I mean, you're the one that said we will table this later, so I was wondering, I just wanted to get a clarification when you were going to cover that.
she's removing it from the current minutes unless I find otherwise to do differently. So if I find otherwise, I'll let everybody know if anything changes.
I just wanted to clarify the comment that was made by another member that wasn't allowed, and I wanted to revalidate that.
Okay,
So, and I think that's another thing that maybe we should consult with the attorney about, but I have read that, a secret ballot is only allowed for certain instances. And then also that anytime that there is a vote recorded, that it needs to be published in the minutes. And however those votes were taken from whatever, board member, because how is the community supposed to be able to say, you know what, I agree with that, or I don't agree with that? How are they supposed to know if they're going to vote for us in re-election, right? And if they can't see the way we're voting, then how can they make a judgment on?
well, it's
I have a
gonna,
point of order.
yeah, go ahead.
The only, that our bylaws also state that it will be by majority vote, and Robert's rules refer that they will be by a majority vote, and names are only associated with votes if a roll call vote is asked. So only thing that is tallying is yeas and nays. There are no names associated with votes unless a roll call vote is specifically asked for.
We will look into it. If it's anything different than what's being published, I will let everybody know.
But it's already a secret ballot, so you can't.
Unless I ask for a roll call vote.
Because you don't know who
It's too
voted.
late for that.
Whose opinion?
You do it at the election time, you don't do
Yeah, I
that.
think the roll call has to be done at the time of the voting.
And it's a little late to unring that bell.
All right, any other discussion under our new business? All in favor of adjournment signify, oh, I guess I need to make a motion.
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion of adjournment? All in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting adjourned. All right, any questions?
Everybody's afraid.
Betsy?
Is there a deadline for the golf cart stickers?
April 1st, is it?
Okay, so it's a long way off.
Yeah.
So we don't have to make a special appointment with you, we can wait till Tammy gets well. Yes, okay.
Giving me a complex up here.
Well, I don't wanna have to make a special appointment. Also, last year, the HOA asked for permission of the POA to have the dumpster down at the Autumn Lake parking lot for the spring cleanup, and it seemed to work very well, and I'm hoping that we can do it there again this year.
I would say that's probably not a problem. We can vote on it at the next meeting, but it went very well last year.
We definitely did not get as much
Right.
miscellaneous junk, so, thank you. That's all.
Anybody else? Yes.
Chris Mears, 9875 East Vista. So I have to ask questions on the wake surfing that was passed in December. So what is the definition of wake surfing for the board committee?
The wakeboarding is what, yeah, wake surfing.
Well, what is it and what's the definition of it?
Well, the boat is making a big wake somehow, and then the persons on the board are basically surfing on the wake, mostly without a rope.
Okay, I'm going to make a request to the board to better define what that is, because there are those of us who wakeboard, and I don't think I don't know what the correct body is,
Yeah,
understands.
wake
what the
surfing
difference
is different than wakeboarding.
It is, but I think we need to clarify that.
And I think they did, because the wake surfing and wake taking is actually explicitly specified as other subdivisions with the lake do the same thing. Wakeboarding is like slalom skiing, pulling behind the boat with a rope. That is not.
Okay,
It's the large wakes that's gonna draw the attention.
I understand, I'm not a fan of it, I like wake surfing every Saturday, but I understand why the community wants to have it. I think it makes sense. I just don't want to go out there and go wakeboarding in the morning and I have half dozen complaints and I have to go show up to a hearing or whatever to go through all this whole process. So I want to make sure that that's clear.
Yes,
I foresee that being
wakeboarding is not a prohibited activity.
Okay.
Chris, what is your last name?
Mayors, M-A-Y-E-R-S.
Okay, thank you.
So also in the process where we're developing the wake surfing ban rule, I'll call it. I know it's spanned over several months. There was lots of debate on there. We heard from lots of parties at the aggregated parties, I'll call them. Did we ever chat with any of the opposing side? The actual sports enthusiasts who go do it every day? I know there was research that was done, and I think there was probably even a briefing that was given.
Yeah.
But did we ever consider the opposite side? Or?
It's been discussed since June. In fact, there was ballot proposals submitted by the property owners. So the majority of the things we had heard is about the activity itself, the damage it was causing to the dam, people's properties.
I understand.
And we've had, I think there's only like 19 wakeboarders in here right now. There's 2,300 property owners, so I really don't know.
Right. So there's probably only about 6 to 8 wake boats on the lake.
Perhaps.
So I guess what I'm getting at is we expended all this effort. We consulted our lawyer to go figure out if this was a legal liability that we wanted to expose POA to. But we never once talked to the actual wake surfers or those people who we had the complaints against to see if there was a resolution option. And so the matter is done and over with. My point I'm trying to make is when we develop these future rules, we should not look to try to exclusively stop something altogether. Like we're a community, we should be trying to work with the community to figure out a mutual resolution. So that would include even those people creating the complaint and those filing the complaint to see if there's something we can come to before we just go full hands up and impose a ban. So that's my request for future rules efforts.
We had definitely had it out to the community the best we could. I mean, we didn't send everybody a handwritten invitation, but we posted on the board. And each meeting, we expressed what's coming out at the next meeting as well.
Right, and I guess to that respect, again, I don't know what the agenda is for the rules meeting since we don't publish it. So I can't attend.
We're trying to get a way to do that on the website. We just have not been able to do that yet.
Got it. I mean, this is all retroactively, so I'm expressing my concerns how we can fix things in the future.
And those are in the hopper, so we've already done it. The minutes of the board meetings, the minutes of ACC meetings, minutes of the rules meeting, agendas, dates of when we're gonna have the next meetings.
Right. So it'd also be nice to make sure that we actually try to connect with the other people as well. I mean, like I said, there's 6 boats, 4 of them are literally on the water and on them. They're not hard to figure out. You can easily figure out where I live, or the other 4 people too. I mean, knock on the door, phone call, you have our numbers. It's not hard. Reach out so you can try to.
But frankly, I didn't know who had a wake boat and who didn't, to be honest with you. So I wouldn't have known who to call.
Something that's disappointing to hear. Yeah, there's 6 of them out there. So I guess we could try to figure out a better way to do that in the future and come to a community mutual resolution instead of this outright banning. I mean, there were I can come up with over half a dozen different solutions we could have gone through. to help everybody out. It's like, I don't think just banning your wake surfing is going to alleviate everyone's complaints. Most of the complaints come on Saturday afternoons. I have a big orange boat, I don't even drive on Saturday afternoons, it's so busy down the hill. That's what causes most of these issues. So, just saying, we need to discuss these, have a forum for both parties to come to a agreement on how to sort things out.
But just so you know, as running the rules, I can only react to the complaints that come to us.
I get it.
And we got inundated last summer with it, and frankly, we didn't do a whole lot about it because we wasn't sure what to do about it. We tried to put it on a ballot, but by the time we got to the ballot, after we went through it, after the lawyer went through it, and it came back, it would have probably just went flat out banned wake boats entirely. And that is not ever what the board intended.
Okay.
So that's why it was withdrawn off the ballot. But the discussion still had to take place, and it was still on the, in fact, we was gonna discuss it at the early rules meeting in October, but there was an issue regarding the beach hours. So we just swapped those two issues and put the beach hours up in front. I mean,
Right.
who knew about the beach hours? The people who wanted to extend the beach hours. So
Right.
how do I tell everybody else what's going on? Unless I can get to it on the email, or I'm sorry, the website.
And that's my point. It was unfair for us to provide some insight, or actually provide some knowledge on what's going on there. So,
Well, hopefully we get everything on the website, the minutes will be on, or the agenda will be on there for each meeting, and everybody can see what's going on. Just like we do at a regular meeting. I don't have no way of doing that at this point to get it to everybody.
and I get it. So that's a future improvement thing. I guess on that note, is there a process, I think back in was it September or August, when we had our impromptu meeting right before the annual voting, and we were looking at all the ballot items. That's what spurred myself to become engaged. Why are we trying to bring in wake boats? That didn't make sense. There was discussion that we wanted to establish a process to create and review ballot items throughout the year. Have we made any progress on that?
We've mentioned it a couple times that we want people to start submitting ballot items in April or May.
Yeah,
Earlier the
actually,
better.
But do we
in
have
the
a process though?
In the newsletter this year, we're gonna be requesting, in the newsletter this month, excuse me, we're gonna start asking people if they have ideas. One thing that people have done is they come up with some statement of, you need to do something about this. And they try to dump that on the board along with other people's ideas. We're not gonna go anywhere with that. That's not a ballot suggestion. But if you have an idea for something like that, what I'm gonna say is that it would be a good idea to reach out to the board member who's most closely aligned to the topic that you wanna talk about and work with that board member to come up with your idea, to flesh it out so that it's a real idea. And then we also had determined last year we were gonna ask for all those ideas sooner because historically we've asked for them by the end of May. And that gives us pretty much the June meeting to sort through what can be 20 or 30 ballot ideas, many of them incomprehensible, to just try to understand what are they really saying, what do they want. So we're gonna start that earlier so we can start reviewing those earlier. Now, historically, it's always been the June meeting that publicly we walked through the ideas that were submitted and talked through them and decided what we would put on the ballot. But because of the number of ideas that we've been getting the last couple of years, we're moving it forward so we can be more organized about it. But for people who have ideas, don't wait for that. Reach out, start working with somebody, because trying to slam it in right at the end, just a partial idea isn't enough for us. We don't have time at that point to put together everything you meant to in that suggestion.
And Chris, I got 3 responses to you. Very good questions. One, if you have 6 ideas or whatever you said about different ways that could have went about, get them to Dave and let him vet it, see if, we don't have all the knowledge. We just have input from what we get from complaints and property owners and so on. So if you have something that might adhere to that rule or update it or make it stronger or work for both sides, get it to them, they can discuss it, and we can go from there. Secondly, I did mention that we need to start discussing these ballot items sooner. But a question I have to everybody, the board, the property owners, you guys, it's a fine line of allowing every ballot item to go on because for the purpose of you want wake boats or wake surfing, let's just say that for an argument. And Derek wants the roads to be painted pink. So where do we draw the line of common sense and what's realistic? And I think the biggest thing that is hard to do is, myself at least, I have a hard time when I see a rule, and I don't like it. I'm thinking, oh, this is garbage, no way. But then I gotta take a step back and say, what will 300 lot owners think about this? And you gotta catch yourself when you start voting on these and approving them for the board. And I know that's been some complaints in years past where I've actually had people come up to me and say, you tell me to submit a ballot item and then you shoot it down. So the biggest thing that I can say from that is vet your ballot to the fullest. Put yourself in them shoes, put your neighbor in them shoes, put the people on another cove, on the golf course, in the forest, and bring the best possible ballot solution to us, as well as the most understandable. Because that's half of the battle, is trying to get this word friendly for people to understand. And we don't want to inundate the ballot. We want 3 people to be voted on every year, but putting 30 different ballot items out there gets a little crazy. And by the time you get to the end one, then you got people saying, well, my ballot item was at the bottom, they didn't even consider it. But we welcome ballots all year long, and I have said to this board that we'll start looking at them as soon as we get them. And if we like one that we think is realistic and it's going to be good for the property owners and the subdivision, we will set it aside and say, hey, we'll vote on it this board meeting. There's no reason for us to wait till June or July. But if you think there's something that needs to go on a ballot, just vet it.
Right, so I don't have anything specific. What I was trying to get at is, it sounds like it might be beneficial to have a board member be an advocate for a particular effort, ballot item, whatever it be. And then from there, that board member can help shepherd the maturation of that item to make it to board discussion.
That's a good idea.
So I guess the request would be if we could lay out what the process would be and maybe communicate that to the community so that we then know how we can go try to make a request for something.
Well, my email's on the website. If you want it, I can give it to you after the meeting, but send me an email and we can toss this back and forth and I'll share it with the board and see what comes up. Because I'm not going to sit here and say our ballot decisioning process is the best, by no means, but it is a tough, to try to figure all correspondence of how it's going to affect everybody. Joe, you had something?
Yeah, it seems like last summer or maybe late fall, we had a meeting. I'm not sure if it's the rules, but there were a number of people here in regards to the wake boats. There were 6, they were sitting right here. So, I mean, they did have some input.
Yeah, we've been definitely talking
When
about
was
it
that?
since June. We talked about it several board
There were
meetings.
6 or 8 people here.
I can't remember when it was, but it was discussed multiple times,
Yeah.
at least for 6 months prior to September and October.
Yeah, that's the other thing that, like I brought up earlier, communicating what we're doing and when we're doing it and how we're doing it. Hopefully the website will help with that. A guy called me this week to talk to me. I spent about 45 minutes on the phone with him. Said I had no idea we were voting on this. I didn't know when the rules meeting was. I live in Baldwin. I don't drive past the light or the LED light. And I said, well, that's what made me think about this today, getting things on the calendar, which people can just jump on the calendar every day. It takes 5 minutes. Oh, hey, there's a rules meeting next Tuesday.
Right.
Or there's an ACC meeting, or there's a roads committee, or whatever. So hopefully we're gonna do a better job of communicating. Not that I don't think we don't do that, it's just maybe we're only hitting a targeted amount of people because of the means they're looking at or we're promoting it on.
No, and there's definitely a lot of work there. I'm not trying to knock all the effort that's gone so far. Just trying to look at how we can improve in the future.
Right.
But
I appreciate it.
Yes, I understand all the effort that goes into making the agenda, making all the minutes, publishing it, going through the reviews. There's a lot there. You guys do it all.
All right.
And it sounds like with the website work that it's gonna be going on the website soon. I know me and Wendy have been trying to get rules and minutes on the website for a while, but we're not sure where to put it, so I guess that's what happened today. You guys know how to do that now.
Derek?
Yeah, so I've been trying to get those meetings from that or the rules, the minutes from that
Yeah.
meeting
I went
since
through
last
Wendy's
week.
notes, or I'm sorry, Tammy's notes, but I did not
Right.
decipher them.
So it
From the
sounds
meeting.
like I've been told that has to be voted on at the next rules meeting before I can get a copy of those.
Yeah, we can't, we
And
can
now,
approve minutes.
but we've already voted on things that came from that meeting.
Well, the minutes have to be approved before, just
Okay.
like tonight's minutes had to be approved.
So my question is now that meeting's now been postponed, when am I gonna be able to get those minutes and view them?
Well, probably before February 15th, but for sure by February 15th. That'll be the next meeting, because that'll be the meeting when they have to approve of them.
Okay, so I can't see the minutes that happened for that
So
until
they don't
February.
actually are written, they're only notes right now, and they're not my notes. But they are notes, and they will be written into minutes, and as soon as they're available and voted on by the committee.
Yeah, Derek, believe it or not, sometimes even when the minutes are done, people come up with last minute changes, so you have to wait for them.
And they just have to be approved before they're official. So whatever I would give you would not be official minutes until.
But you can understand my frustration.
I do.
We've got a very important topic that was discussed and voted on at that meeting, and
Meetings,
Okay, so,
At what meeting are you?
ACC rules meeting.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
the
not the
rules
board
meetings.
meeting, that's what he's saying.
so I guess my point is, were the
Well, let's
minutes
discuss
from the
it at
rules
December
meeting available at the board meeting, is what the question is, right? Where they got voted on? I don't know.
they're
The
not.
motions got made at the December meeting, I'm sorry, at the rules meeting in December, we voted on at the board meeting.
I think where there's one issue for community members though, is that unless they attend every single rules meeting, they don't know what's gonna be happening at the next rules meeting,
But they
right?
would if they were at a meeting, if the people there at the meeting regarding the vote hour, the parking lot hours, it was announced that the next meeting was gonna be, I forgot what the date was, and what the agenda, the topic was gonna be wakeboards, because that was wakeboarding and wake surfing, where it was, because that had been discussed for months.
So how is that,
So
what he's
everybody-
asking, how is that?
Well, I'm just saying, everybody who was interested in that one issue, they knew about the next issue, but they didn't show up, only the people that were interested in that other issue, like you said, showed up.
But there's no, the rules meeting, right, agenda isn't being, or is it, right, being published to
Right,
the
well,
community?
to everybody. How do we publish the agenda to everybody until it can be put on the
One thing
website?
we had discussed
The
last
same way that they do
spring
for the
was,
monthly meeting.
regardless of what the committees themselves are doing, was that before the meeting, the board monthly meeting, that we would collect the new business and unfinished business items that we were gonna be addressing, and that way, if I had them ahead of time, I would put them in the meeting announcement. And so what's kind of happened is that that information's going straight to Wendy and bypassing me, so I'm not putting it in the monthly meeting announcements, because I don't know what we're gonna talk about. So if we could just reinstate that request that each committee member who has any new or old business to provide, get it to me at least 3 or 4 days before the meeting, then I can include it in the meeting announcement.
Well, I think this all boils down to communicating it through the website, so people have, no matter where they are, phone, computer, tablet, or walk into the office and get the agenda. So it's twofold, I guess. It's the agenda, for one, you want to be made aware of, and it's the meeting minutes that we're voting on that you would like to have access to prior to us voting on it as a board.
Yeah, I mean, my main complaint is that we made that vote last month on meetings that haven't even been approved yet.
Right.
So, I mean, that kind of makes an issue in my mind. Because as you said, if something changes between now and when those are approved, we've made decisions for the whole community based off minutes that aren't even official yet.
Yeah, let me think about that, Derek, and discuss
Yeah,
it.
because we approved the minutes of this meeting next month. So does that mean everything we vote on tonight is void? No.
No, he's not saying it
No.
should be void, he just
Well-
doesn't know what they are
Well,
from one rules meeting to the next until, we've already voted on it, is what that's how I understand it.
Yeah, I mean, like next month, you're gonna approve all this stuff, right? That's gonna make all that.
The minutes,
All
you
the
mean?
stuff that we did tonight, you're gonna approve all that next
All
month.
the
That's
stuff we
gonna
did
make it
tonight is gonna be
official.
approved. We will approve of it, it's written in the minutes. We will approve the minutes
You'll
as
approve the
written,
minutes next
or
month.
make changes if there's some omissions or some additions that we need to make.
Right,
And then it'll be approved.
right. But we wouldn't start the meeting out voting on other things if we haven't approved this meeting. The very first thing
And
we
that's the
do
first thing
every
that happens at a rules meeting,
is
that's
that-
they're approved. Those minutes are approved at the
No.
rules meeting.
Okay, but I think you're misunderstanding. So like the very first thing we did tonight is we approved the minutes from last month. Okay, that made those minutes official. Then then we're moving through. The minutes from December still haven't been made official, yet we've made votes and other changes based off those minutes when they're not officially approved yet.
And when we have the meeting in February, those minutes will be approved or added or edited, whatever that needs to be done to make sure that they're correct.
There have been no other changes, the rules been made since the last rules meeting, so there's been no other changes made or discussed.
Did you hear that, Derek?
Yeah, I heard it.
So we approved 5 items that came out of that rules meeting.
3 route of ACC and 3 route.
So the rules, the minutes were not available to be approved by the members before the board voted on them. That is the question.
I think that's the question, Chris.
But there's no, there is nothing in our processes that says anything taken to the board has to have the minutes of the previous meeting approved and published before it's finalized with the board. There are 2 separate things, things that are voted on and approved in a committee meeting. Anything that has to be forwarded for final approval to the board, there is no dependency between the minutes being approved and published and that item being brought up to the board for a final approval.
I agree with what you're saying, but like Dave said, what if something changes in those minutes of the way it was worded to us in a meeting?
And just because the process doesn't say that we have to do that.
I don't know.
Right.
Just
Dave.
if something is approved within the committee.
Just because it's not in the process now, doesn't
Hang on,
mean
hang on.
we shouldn't
Let's
consider
talk
it.
about a rule change, since we're all on rules. If there's gonna be a rule change, it's already been voted on and approved by the committee. Nothing else is going to change. There's nothing in the minutes that are going to say that that rule didn't get approved. It's going to have to go to the
don't think time is a crisis, but if you think that's the way it should be, then
Well, that's not how it is for the board.
I don't think that
I'm
that's
saying
necessarily,
that's the reality of it right now, is there's a rules meeting in November, and there is an item approved that has to be a final approval by the board. It happens on the Tuesday after the board meeting in November. So it's got an approved item on the rules meeting being presented to the board for final approval in December. And then on that Tuesday, the minutes for November are approved. So there is no dependency on the minutes being approved and it being presented to the board for final approval.
so basically what you're saying is it sounds like it would make more sense to have the rules meeting and whatever motions are coming out of it on the Tuesday before the board meeting. That way you can present that and discuss it at a board meeting, and then in the next rules meeting, you can have the meetings available, or the minutes available for the next board meeting. Then it's only delayed 5 weeks. It's just because of where the meeting lands is what's causing the 3 months.
Well, the December meeting was held before the meeting, because the date was set at a different date, a special date at the November meeting.
I'm just saying, if you wanted to vote on the minutes prior to a board seeing it,
So,
Okay, I'm having trouble understanding
But I'm
this.
saying
it
that
is a
there-
little confusing.
The
I'm saying there
minutes,
is no dependency there.
the minutes are just a recap of what happened.
Yeah.
You're just voting on the minutes to say, this is what happened. Any changes to the minutes are based merely on the fact, oh, we forgot to put that in there, or whatever. The minutes are not approving the rule that was passed.
correct.
They have nothing to do
I
with that.
agree.
Yeah, I agree.
The rule that was passed will become valid at the next board meeting when they vote to approve it or not approve it, whatever. The rules committee passes it, and then the board votes on it and approves
Yeah,
it or
nothing the
not.
rules committee can do.
So
Everything the rules committee
it's
does
not
has to
in
go
force
before.
until the board votes on it.
Right.
The minutes have nothing to do with it. The minutes are just a recap of what happened in that meeting. It has nothing to do with this is in force or it isn't.
but when you're making a vote on an item, shouldn't we have all the accompanying notes to back that up? Like if you're voting on, like, if there was a discussion on rules committee, wouldn't we want all that discussion documented
Well,
from the
yeah,
board?
we need to have that, but the vote is what passes the rule or not, whether it's the vote by the rules committee or the vote by the board. The minutes are just a summary of what happened in that meeting.
Right, but how does everyone that wasn't at that rules meeting know what happened at that meeting without those being published? Like, if Dave wasn't at the meeting, how would Dave know what happened at the rules meeting?
They don't know until the minutes are available.
So we
can't
want them
make
to
the
vote
minutes
on
available
something
the
that
next day.
they don't know about?
Pardon me?
We're asking them to vote on something that they don't know about, that they don't know the discussion that's
No, the
behind it?
people voting on it are the committee involved and the board.
Right, but back to my example, if Dave is voting on an item from the rules committee,
Okay?
okay, but he doesn't have any of the minutes from that meeting or the discussions, we're asking him to vote blindly.
The
It's
motion is
discussed,
clear.
that's what the discussion phase is about. You make a motion to approve it, and then it's discussed. He asks us any questions about it, it's incumbent upon him to ask the questions and educate himself about it if he wasn't there.
And the matter that comes before the board is presented in a way that provides all of that information. It is not taken from the minutes of the meeting.
Right, the minutes are not what we rely on for that. They're just a recap of what happened in that meeting.
I see your point, Derek, and really the way that we could resolve this is being able to publish the rules agenda, ACC agenda on the website prior to that meeting, well prior, right? I mean, Robert's rules, I think it says 24 hours, right? But it really should be, a couple
Well,
weeks out.
you guys usually know what you're gonna talk about at the next rules meeting, right? So soon we'll be having it on the website that you can see the agenda.
Yeah, because it usually goes out the Thursday or Friday prior to the Tuesday meeting, and then it's put on Blinky
So,
Saturday.
Wendy, that'll be one of your new tasks that you just learned today. agendas.
So now I'm kicking a dead
Well, she
horse.
knows she's been wanting to do it. We've been wanting to get the agenda and the minutes on there for both the rules and the ACC, but for whatever reason, we couldn't get to it.
So now I'm kicking a dead horse here, but Dave made a comment that I want to clarify. So you said everyone at that November meeting was told about the date change for the December meeting, correct? Because it was different than the normal third Tuesday of every month. But only the people that were at that November meeting would have known about the December.
Yes,
8th.
next meeting scheduled, it's in the minutes that, these would have been approved at the December 13th meeting. It says December schedule, next meeting scheduled December 13th, 6 o'clock.
But that only the people that would have been at that meeting would have received that info. So
And the
people
people
that
that
would
would-
normally show up on the third Tuesday of every month for a meeting would not have known that the meeting was changed and there was an important vote that
And
happened.
it was put on Blinky at 24 hours prior. I mean, that's until I have
Okay.
access
Nope.
to the website, that's the best I can do. I mean, try to get it out there as best I could. In fact,
Eventually, it'll be on the calendar. So when I say website, the minutes will be on the website once they get approved, but the agenda will be on the calendar. At least the meeting, we need to work on the agenda. I know we didn't.
Possibly fit on the calendar.
Well, we can do it as a pop-up or something once they click on the date. Yeah.
Hey, I want to ask a question. What happened to the time limits on the open forum?
There's not enough people here, Joe, to worry about that.
Well, this has been going on for 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
There's been legitimate questions and legitimate answers. Frank, did you have something?
What I was gonna say was, hopefully all this will be cleared up once you get it going and get it in the, on the internet, on the website. And you can post the meetings, even if it's not, ACC meeting, rules meeting, okay, and the date behind it, and you can put agenda, click on this so you can get the agenda if you want. And then if you miss the meeting, you know ahead of time what's gonna be on the agenda. So if you can't have a friend make it and be here and take notes or whatever, so you're not in the dark. And then that'll clear up all the questions, I think.
All right. Any other questions? All right, meeting is over. Thank you guys for attending.